So Judah is to be judged according to the degree by which they keep the Torah. This does not apply to the other tribes. The other tribes of Israel had never really been strict about learning the Torah. That was not their strong point. Even before they departed, even before they got lost, keeping the law was not really a strong point with them. But they did have aptitudes in other areas. One of those aptitudes was kindness, empathy between a man and his fellow. They felt the needs of other people. They were considerate towards others. And therefore, they will be judged primarily to the degree to which they departed from this quality of special empathies that they had. As he said, they will be judged when they sold the poor for a pair of shoes. They did not abide by the principles of social justice. They betrayed the main point that they were supposed to be emphatic in. So we have this, that each and every tribe is different, will be judged differently. Will be judged for everything we did in every way. But primarily will be judged by what specific attribute we're supposed to be strong in, and to the degree by which we abided by it. So that is a point worth noting, that each of us has their own particular proclivities, their own particular strong points. And the strong points are there for a reason. We should look at ourselves and find the strong points that we have been good at, that we have been managed to abide by, and we should maintain them. We should not look at the other person now. There's a tendency for someone to think you've been going along a certain path and you've been quite good in certain ways, but you see that your friends or your associates, they aren't like that. And they manage. So you tend to think, why should I continue along this pathway of righteousness when the others are not doing so and are not suffering because of it? So you should know that this is not the way you are judged. You are judged because of what you are and your strong points that you have, and you are expected to maintain them. So that is a point we should notice, that and this particular observation was applied to each of the tribes, to the tribes in general, to each and every single Israelite tribe in its own individual qualities, its own individual attributes, its own individual strong points that they should emphasize. Each tribe, he says each tribe has its own peculiar characteristics and meritorious traits of its own. It's expected to adhere to these natural inclinations. If it deviates from its tribal nature, it is liable to be punished. Not every tribe is judged in the same way. The same applies to individuals. And then he says Judah is expected to keep the law and will be punished if it does not. The other tribes were less involved with the law, but they were connected to the characteristics of social justice. So the lost 10 tribes, they separated from Judah. They were taken, they separated, they set up their own kingdom in the north, to the north of the tribe of Judah and Benjamin and Levi in the south. 10 tribes in the north, they set up their own individual kingdom. And eventually they were conquered by the Assyrians and taken into exile, taken away into exile. And in their places of exile, there were changes and all kinds of goings on until eventually they too were exiled again and again, pushed out, pushed forward, and they moved to the north, they moved to the west, and eventually they converged in Western Europe. From there, they also colonized the USA and Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and other areas. And that is where the descendants of Joseph are primarily to be found today. Also, those of other tribes who joined unto them. The other tribes remained in Western Europe, in France, in Belgium, in the Netherlands, in Sweden and Norway and Denmark and Finland, Switzerland, and they are there. And we do not know what proportion of the population in those areas is actually descend from the 10 tribes of Israel. It might be significant, might be quite a large proportion, or it might be less than we would expect, but it is there. That is where they are. The Bible indicates that is where they are, and that is all we have. The information we have is that the 10 tribes are in those areas. And that the tribes of Judah are amongst English-speaking peoples, and English-speaking peoples contain all of the tribes of Israel, but amongst them the tribes of Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh are especially prominent, are especially to be found. And it would behove each and every one of us to know what his strong points are, what the points of his characteristics that he can, things that he can do, that he likes to do, that he is good at doing. And he should be proud of that, and he should emphasize that. And he should realize that is what makes him what he is. And for that he will be rewarded. And the 10 tribes, when they were still in the land of Israel, when they just separated from Judah, they had already begun to worship foreign idols, to offer sacrifices to them, even human sacrifices, to do all kinds of things according to the Bible. The Bible says that some people get quite indignant when I mention this, but this is what the Bible says. You don't argue with me. There's the Bible, biblical sources. You can go and argue with them. And they had gone in a bad way, and eventually they were taken away by the Assyrians. And when the Assyrians took them away, they were moved to different areas, moved here, moved there. And they sometimes intermixed with other peoples, and other times they remained alone, and they moved. And they changed as they moved. But something of the original basic Israelite peoples remained with them. And this will enable them to return. And they behoves them in our time to try and connect up to what they originally were, to their tribal identity. And usually, on the whole, the tribal identity of a person is what is the same as that amongst the people he is grown up with, the people he finds himself. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. But that is a point worth noting. People often ask me, how do I know what tribe I'm from? So we say we cannot tell you what tribe we are from. We ourselves do not know for 100% what tribe we belong to. But we can make a fair approximation. And in general, a person belongs to whatsoever group he is born amongst. So that is an a priori step to take to identify the people you find yourself amongst, And if something doesn't work out, if there's something doesn't really coincide, you think it's not there, go keep looking elsewhere. There's a verse in Zechariah 10:9, which has been applied to the 10 tribes. Yeah, they will remember me in distant countries, speaking about the end times. They will remember me in distant countries. They will remember me in distant countries. They will remember me in distant countries, and they with their children will live and come back, and they with their children will live and come back, and that we should look after our children and we should try and teach them concerning this message, but we should do it with good sense. We should teach them to be circumspect about how they push this message, or how they spread it, or if they spread it. You don't have to overemphasize it with them, but they should. It's good that they know about it. And that by virtue of the children, that is what we're talking, by virtue of the children, the 10 tribes will return. By virtue of the children, the 10 tribes will be saved. As it says, and they with their children will live and will come back. Your children will bring you back if you give them enough of yourself. So that is a point worth noting, that it's not only you who's doing the favor, who's doing the good deed by educating them, by pointing them in this direction. They are actually helping you. By virtue of you helping them, you can come back, you can be led along the right path. And they will tell you things that are obvious that you never thought about. And they can help you. So concerning proofs that we do belong to those 10 tribes, you should consider it the following. Was prophesied. The Bible tells us that the exiled Israelites were to become one of the most numerous groups of people in the world, on the world scale. See Genesis 15:5, 22:17, 24:60, 32:12, Numbers 23:10, Deuteronomy 1:11, Isaiah 10:22, Isaiah 10:24, Isaiah 24:16, 26:15, Isaiah 1:10. That would be the most powerful countries in the earth. See Genesis 27:9, Numbers 24:7, Micah 5:7-9. That would be the richest, to possess the most mineral and agricultural resources. See Genesis 27:28, 49:25. Deuteronomy 33:13-16, Isaiah 2:8. Who live in the best places, the most salubrious climates, Isaiah 41:8-9, to be in islands and the promontories, see Isaiah 42:4, Isaiah 49:1-6, Jeremiah 31:9-10, Jeremiah 31:8, and the continental extremities, see Deuteronomy 33:13, Isaiah 24:16, Isaiah 26:15. Isaiah 41:8-9, Isaiah 49:6. There would be seafarers, Isaiah 42:6. There would be found especially to the north and west of the land of Israel. And they would gain control over strategic points regarding their potential adversaries. See Genesis 22:16-17 and Genesis 24:60. It would be like a lion and a unicorn, the symbols of Great Britain. Numbers 24:8-9, and a bald-headed eagle, Micah 1:16, the symbol of the USA. They will also be largely unaware of the Israelite identity, and they would practice a non-Jewish religion. See Hosea 2:8, 2:13, 2:16, Hosea 11:12. So they are a few of the points indicating the lost 10 tribes are amongst Western peoples, especially the English-speaking peoples. And they are there. They indeed are the most powerful countries in the earth. The USA expends 40% of all the whole world expenditure on the military. Like 40% of all the money in all the earth spent on armaments and on military preparedness. 40% of this money comes from the USA. The USA is the most powerful country in the earth, both potentially and in actuality. And before then, Britain fulfilled that role. And we have the other nations of Israel who are less active in that sphere, but they too had their moments of glory in the past. The Netherlands is a small country, less than 20 million people, but there was a time when it had a great empire, great naval mercantile empire, and it traded all over the earth and had colonies all over the earth. In Indonesia, what is now Indonesia, in parts and other areas. So too, France had a big empire in Africa and Southeast Asia. In the Pacific, all over the earth, France was also powerful. And France too is partially, at least partially, descended from Israelites. And then we had other countries that didn't have an empire, but they had been quite powerful in the past. The Danes in Denmark were a little small country, a small population. But in the past, the Danish Empire had also been quite large, conquered good portions of Scandinavia, conquered England, established colonies in France together with Norwegians, created the Normans. The Normans also were a very small country, very small portion of France, but the Normans also had their empire. They conquered Italy, or they ruled over Italy, or most of Italy. At one stage or other, and they ruled over Britain, and they ruled over other areas, over Ireland. The Normans, and then they became part of the English upper classes. Even now, I saw a study, an interesting study. Someone went along and he checked the surnames of people in England, and he found the people with French names or Norman names, names that assumedly came over with the conqueror. Just based on the surnames alone, he had a much higher chance of belonging to a higher income bracket, a higher socio-economic status. So it's always, even now, having Norman ancestry counts for something in some areas. The USA does possess most of the mineral and agricultural resources in the earth, or a good portion of them, or has control over them. And so too do the other countries also have mineral and natural resources of their own. And the USA and its population, it is almost equal to all the other countries put together. Definitely, if you definitely the USA and England together are equal to all the other countries put together. And they are seafarers. Their navy is the largest on earth. And they are to be found primarily to the north and west of the land of Israel, as prophesied. And they have gained control over strategic points. They give them an edge over their potential adversaries. The USA has about 700 overseas bases, the gates of their enemies all over the earth, more than 700, all over the earth. And before then, you had the English, who also had their overseas bases. And now you have other aspects of expanding one's presence in space and in other areas. And here too, the USA is prominent in this. So I have these indications that this is where the lost 10 tribes are. And the greatness of America had been prophesied, it had been indicated beforehand. We find The forefather of the Israelite nation, was Israel. Israel was also known as Jacob. Israel was also known as Jacob. Jacob had his name changed to Israel. And before he died, Israel called Joseph to him, and Joseph came to him, and he brought his sons with him. And when Israel saw Joseph's sons, he said, "Who are these? Who are these?" Joseph said to his father, "These are my sons whom God has given me in this place." And he said, that is Jacob, Israel said, "Please bring them to me and I will bless them." Now the eyes of Israel were dim with age. He had trouble seeing. You remember that Isaac, his father, also had trouble seeing when he was old. When Israel pretended to be Esau and took the blessing from him. So apparently there might be something genetical about this, that in their old age the forefathers had difficulty in seeing. So he told them the eyes of Israel were dim with age that he could not see. Then Joseph brought them near him and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, "I had not thought to see your face, but in fact God has also shown me your offspring." So Joseph brought them from beside his knee, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand. Joseph took both his sons, Ephraim with his right hand, his hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near him. So Joseph put his left hand on Manasseh and his right hand on Ephraim, and he brought them towards Israel. He expected Israel to put out his hand with his right hand to bless Manasseh, and with his left hand to bless Ephraim. Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, guiding his hands knowingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph, and he said, "God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has fed me all my life long to this day. The angel has redeemed me from all evil. Bless the lads, and let my name be named upon him, the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac. Let them grow into a multitude to the midst of the earth." Now when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. So he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's. So Joseph saw what was going on. So he took the hand of his father and he tried to move it, to move it over to the other head. Put the right hand on the head of Manasseh, the right hand of his father on the head of Manasseh, and the left hand of his father on the head of Ephraim. And Joseph said to his father, "Not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." But his father refused. He didn't move his hands. His father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a great people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations." And he blessed him that day, saying, "By you, Israel, will the blessing be, saying, may God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh." And thus he said to Ephraim before Manasseh. So he said concerning Manasseh, he said, "He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great." And he said Ephraim before Manasseh. Therefore we understand that Ephraim would precede Manasseh in history. We identify Manasseh with the British and Ephraim primarily with the Americans. Why did Jacob not command that Manasseh be placed on the left side and Ephraim on his right? Why did Jacob have to cross his hands over? The truth is that Manasseh is the firstborn. The future most important building of all, that is the third temple, where he consecrated the month dedicated to Manasseh. Manasseh will help rebuild the third temple. We identify Manasseh with America. Manasseh will be instrumental in helping build the third temple. Guiding his hand wittingly, it says Genesis 48:14, and did not change Manasseh over to the left side, for in truth Manasseh is the firstborn and the most important. But he put Ephraim before Manasseh concerning the chronological precedence. In other words, Isaac agreed with Joseph that Manasseh is the most important son. The strongest blessing, according to him, should go to Manasseh, but Manasseh will come later. He will come afterwards. First, the blessing will go to Ephraim. That is what is being said here. Sage is saying that Manasseh remained on the right hand side of Jacob. He fulfilled the destiny of Jacob. And he expressed more the inner being of Jacob. The left hand of Jacob was on the head of Manasseh. The left hand is a weaker hand and the slower one. It indicates that Manasseh will be slower to reach fruition. Concerning Joseph, Ephraim is the one who fulfills his path and must continue his path. Ephraim is the one who fulfills the path and must continue his path. Therefore, Joseph set Ephraim on his right-hand side to show that Ephraim is the main principle of his might and the continuer of his path. However, concerning Joseph, Jacob is just the opposite. Manasseh is closer to the path of Jacob. Jacob agreed only that Manasseh remained at his right-hand side, for he is destined to complete the quality of Jacob himself in the building of the third temple. The temple will be rebuilt by the help of Manasseh, so we should remember that and keep it in mind. And we are seeing now in our times that this is not something that we can expect to happen tomorrow, but somehow or other we can see it within the realm of possibility. In some way or other, if we think of the temple is to be rebuilt, one of the Gentile nations, a powerful Gentile nation, is going to help us do it against the opposition of most of the rest of the world. Who? Which nation could that possibly be? America. America fits the bill all along the line. So this helps confirm our identification of the USA with Manasseh, with the 10 tribes and with Manasseh. And it also was implied that Manasseh will emerge from Ephraim like the USA did from Britain. Britain will identify with Ephraim, the USA with Manasseh, and we find the early settlers of the USA, they came from Britain. But those who came from Britain, they came from specific places within Britain, specific areas. I have a work here, history work, and he examines the migrating bodies who come to the USA. And he says that more than 80% of them, more than 80% of the early settlers of the USA came from the north and the west of the British Isles. In other words, from specific parts of the USA they came. They also came from other areas. They were also important and came from other areas. But numerically, those who came from regions in Britain, that we identify as being predominated by tribes from Manasseh, they go help get the ones who primarily gave rise to the USA. So that confirms our identification and also the identification made by others, equating the USA with Manasseh, even though other tribes are present in the USA and important there too. And also, we also note from this that the greatness of the USA was to find expression through its size and material advantage. It suits the USA. The very name Manasseh connotes responsible representation. Responsible representation. No taxation without representation is what they said when they rebelled against the British. That is what gave rise to them. It's a fundamental characteristic of US social and political culture. Also, the name America derives from Ha-Machir in Hebrew, or Ha-Machiri, meaning sons of Machir. Machir was the firstborn son of Manasseh. The name Machir, his name gave rise to American Hebrew, can also mean capitalism or selling. The principle of the sale, capitalism, Machir. That is some of the few of the proofs identifying the USA with Manasseh, and also points in general concerning identification as Israelites of Israelite tribes, and the difference in each tribe, one from another, and how we should try and connect to who we are, to our Israelite heritage. May the Lord God of Israel bless all of you, and help me, and help Rabbi Aryeh, and all of us. Thank you very much.
We want to thank Yair for another illuminating talk. This is episode 47. We're almost going on 4 years now. And we wish our viewers and listeners all the best from Jerusalem and from our friends in the United States and England. And for Americans, a happy Thanksgiving, as happy as we can be under the circumstances this Thursday. And for Israel and the whole world, a festival of lights, Hanukkah. Hopefully we'll have a lot of open miracles for the good for all humanity.